Alright, in this video I'm going to be simplifying radicals with variables. Now I say radicals a lot. Radical refers to square roots. They're called radicals because they are radical. Actually, I have no idea why they're called radicals, but they are radicals, which means the same thing as square root, which means the same thing as to the power of 1/2. So remember, they'll follow the same rules that exponents would. Alright, so let's go ahead. Just like in the previous set, I'm going to break this up. 49 is 7 times 7. X squared is x times x. Y squared is y times y. And so I recognize then that each of these things has a pair. I can take the square root of each of those. And so I can take the square root of 49, which is 7. I can take the square root of x squared, which is x. And I can take the square root of y squared, which is y. Now you may ask, where did the square root go? Well, we did it, right? When you have a problem that is 4 plus 5 equals 9, where did the plus go? It's not over on this side. We did 4 plus 5 equals 9. Where did the plus go? Well, it didn't go anywhere. We did it, right? We did the addition, and therefore it's no longer needed. Same thing here. Where did the square root go? Well, we square rooted everything. Everything was square rooted, and therefore we don't need the square root anymore. Okay, so there you go. 7xy for question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2 is the square root of 50xy squared z cubed. All right, so same thing. We'll go ahead. We'll break up the 50. 50 is 5 times 10. 10 is 5 times 2. We've got 1x. We've got 2 y's. We've got 3 z's. Okay, so we rewrite this as being the square root of 5 times 5 times 2 times x times y times y times z times z times z. Now this is the complete factorization of this monomial that's inside. That's why we learned that first, was how to factor it down to its prime factors. Now that we have it down to its prime factors, we can go ahead and find the pairs. There's a pair, there's a pair, there's a pair. All right, and so with the pairs, we're going to put those together. And so I'm now going to have the square root of 25. Now the 2 doesn't have a pair. The x doesn't have a pair. There's a y squared. There's a z squared. And then that last z doesn't have a pair. Now all of this is under the square root still. Now we can break this up into pieces. You can take the square root of each piece individually. We did that in the last video, in the last set. So if I take the square root of 25, I get 5. If I take the square root of 2, I don't know how to take the square root of 2. So I'm going to need the square root here because the 2 still needs to be inside the square root. I can't take the square root of x, so it's still inside the square root also. The square root of y squared is y. The square root of z squared is z. And then the square root of z, I can't do that, therefore it still needs to be inside the root. And so this is your final answer. Anything that we did, that we took the square root of, came out. Anything we couldn't take the square root of obviously had to stay inside because we haven't done it yet. Okay, on to question number 3. Question number 3 is the root of 98x squared y to the 4th. So let's go ahead. 98 is 2 times 49. 49 is 7 times 7. Now I had no idea it was 49. Okay, maybe I did, but maybe you didn't know it was 49 right off the bat. You should recognize, though, that 2 goes into 98. You can put that into your calculator or divide it out by hand and figure out that it's 49. Then we've got an x squared, which is 2 x's. We've got a y to the 4th, so 4 y's. Okay, so at this point, we write it out. So that's equal to the square root of 2 times 7 times 7 x, x, y, 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 because I said so. And so now we will put these together. We've got 2 7s, we've got 2 x's, we've got 2 y's, we've got another 2 y's. So I'm going to rewrite this as the square root of 2 times 49 times x squared times y squared times another y squared. So now we're going to go through each individual term. If we can take the square root, we will. If we can't, then it stays. So here we go. Square root of 2, I don't know, goes in the square root. Square root of 49, 7. Square root of x squared, x. Square root of y squared, y. And the square root of this y squared, also y. And so therefore we have 7xy squared root 2. Now this kind of clues us off on the fact that y to the fourth then is y squared times y squared, which you probably should have known already. Y squared times y squared, we add the exponents together and we get y to the fourth. Okay, that's an important idea for later, which we'll get to in a different video. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's go on to question number 4. Question number 4 is the square root of 54x squared y to the fifth. So 54 is 9 times 6. 9 is 3 times 3. 6 is 3 times 2. I've got 2 x's and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 y's. So let's rewrite it in our radical. I've got 3 3's, a 2, 2 x's, and 5, 4, 5 y's. So then we'll put the pairs together. I've got 2 3's. I've got 2 x's. I've got 2 y's, and I've got another 2 y's. All right, so now we'll put all those together. So we've got, you don't have to do this step if you don't want. You're probably starting to recognize the pattern. So 9 times 3 times 2, x squared, y squared, y squared, y. We'll take the square root of what we can. We'll leave what we can't. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 3, don't know. Square root of 2, don't know. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of y squared is y. Square root of y squared again is y. And then the y at the end, we can't take the square root of that. So we'll just leave it the way it is. Now we'll simplify. So this is 3xy squared. And then this is the root of 3 times 2, which is 6y. And so there you go. There's your answer. Let's move on to question number 5. So, numero 5. Here's a joke for you. What happens to four Spanish philosophers in quicksand? Cuatro, cinco. Never mind. All right, number 5 is the square root of 98x squared y to the fourth. Okay, 98. Wait, we just did that. I'm just kidding. Number 5 is square root of 150 x to the fourth y to the fourth. All right, so let's go ahead. 150 is 15 times 10. That's 3 times 5, and that's 2 times 5. And then I've got 4 x's and 4 y's. And so if I put the pairs together, I've got 2 5's here. I've got 2 x's, another 2 x's, 2 y's, another 2 y's. So if we write this out, we get 3 times 2 times 5, which is 25, times x squared times y squared times y squared. And we get the square root of 3. Don't know. Leave it in the square root. Square root of 2. Don't know. Leave it in the square root. Square root of 25. That's 5. Take it out. Square root of x squared. X. Square root of x squared. X. Square root of y squared. Y. Square root of y squared. Y again. And so that will leave us with 5x squared, y squared, root of 3 times 2, which is 6. There we go. All right, last one for this set. Number 6, here we go. The square root of 72x squared, y to the fifth, z. All right, let's see if we can finish this off in less than 10 minutes. So here we go. 72 is... I'm going to cheat a little bit this time. 72 is 2 times 36. Now, I knew that because 72 is even. 36 just happens to be a perfect square. So I'm not going to go out and write out the pairs this time. I'm just going to recognize that. X squared is 2 x's. Y squared is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then z. And so let's write this out. So I now have the square root of 2 times 36. And then I've got 2 x's there. So that's going to be x squared. I've got 2 y's. So that's y squared. Got 2 more y's. That's another y squared. And then I got a y and a z hanging on at the end. And so we're going to simplify. I don't know the square root of 2, so it's going to stay. The square root of 36 is 6. That's why it was okay for me to stop at the 36, because I recognize that as being a perfect square. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of y squared is y. Square root of the other y squared is another y. And then we've got the y and the z that I don't know how to take a square root of. So there we go. And we'll simplify by going 6xy squared root 2yz. And so there you go. That's all 6 of them.